Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session from VPA, and we are here. My name is Sepida Azagun. I'm a registered architect, one of the community member of VPA, Vancouver Persian Architect, and we are here to host another event with a very interesting topic, AI and architecture. So you're going to hear more about it from two of our representatives. So a bit of blurb about VPA, as a lot of you know us. VPA stands for Vancouver Persian in Architecture, and we are based in Vancouver. But we have a lot of members, about 700 in Telegram. We also have Instagram and LinkedIn active, and I think there a lot of members are from other cities and even countries. So our main purpose is to gather everyone, have a community to help each other, learn from each other, and expand our knowledge. Today's topic is about AI, as you all know, and we are hosting Natalia and Mehdi, co-founder of Arki, a startup set to boost building design and productivity. Natalia is a licensed architect based in Toronto, and Mehdi is a software engineer based in Vancouver. And in this presentation, we will be looking into the new advancement in AI in a realm of architecture, and how can utilize the AI to design building faster, easier, and more sustainable. Sound very interesting to me. So I'm gonna hand over to Mehdi and Natalia to introduce themselves and start this meeting in a few seconds. I'm just gonna mention that because this is a webinar-based presentation. Please, if you have any question, write in the chat box or a Q&A session that we will have a Q&A time at the end, and you can ask question, and that would be it. And you can start. Thank you.
Thank you, Sepide. I'm just going to start sharing my screen.
Yep.
And please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, perfect. All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. And thank you, Vancouver Persian Architects, for hosting us. It's very kind. We're very excited. So we're going to share some of the research and what we've been building in the past year and a half. And at the end, we're going to have time for questions. So I'm just going to jump right in. So we are Arki, and today we're going to be talking about the future of architecture and how we can embrace AI and not to be scared of it, but rather take advantage of this new technology and make sure that we are as cutting edge in this AI game as other professions that are out there. So we're going to start with a quick introduction and explain why we are here today and why do we feel there's a value we can bring to you with this webinar. To start at a high level, we are building cloud software that is geared towards architects. We are a Toronto-based company, but as Sepide already mentioned, our CTO Mehdi is in Vancouver, and that's how we have connections with this group. The whole premise of this product is an AI-driven solution that serves architects. It's also important to mention that we built with architects, and this work is extremely interconnected with the day-to-day practice of architecture and focused on increasing architects' day-to-day productivity. So we will have 45 minutes for the presentation and then 15 minutes for the Q&A. So please drop your questions. Typically our presentations, they raise a lot of questions, so don't be shy and, interact with us. It's all new, so we are very open to have a conversation with you. So here are the key topics for today's session. We're going to start by talking about the current landscape of AI augmented architecture tools and the state of things as they are today. There are over 1,000 AI tools that are known to us, and we try to touch on some of them. We are going to talk about the case studies and how the implementation is working based on this year and a half of research that we've been doing so far. And we're going to send you home with a plan of action and things that you can start doing today to stay current, stay relevant, and make sure you're never left out of context. We are going to quickly introduce ourselves. So my name is Natalia. As Sepere already mentioned, I'm a registered architect here in Toronto with OAA. I've been in Canada for the past 10 years, and originally I'm from Russia. I got my license about 5 years ago. I worked and studied in 5 countries, and this helped me to see what are the common patterns or differences in the practice of architecture. As an architect, I started using BIM very early when I was about 18 years old, and I've been always extremely keen on intersection of technology and design. And now we're going to hear from Mehdi.
Hi everyone, I'm Mehdi. Nice to meet you all. I'm a software engineer by trade. I've been working in the tech industry for the past 14 years in startups and big tech companies, building software that is being used by millions of people worldwide. And we're excited here today to share with you the intersection between technology, AI, and what we are doing to boost productivity.
Thank you, Mehdi. So why is it so important to talk about this today? Why are we here today? We see a lot of interest in this topic, and people are coming to us asking this question, why now? I'm actually traveling to US, going to Mexico to talk about this at other conferences and why this is so crucial and so important. The reason is that AI and machine learning in recent years have become more accessible. We see a wider adoption across many industries. We see that various sectors are experimenting exponential growth in AI applications. At the same time, we see a boom in AI adoption in our profession as well. There are over 1,000 of these apps in architecture, and you can send me a note and ask me how I counted them. And even though architects are known to be a bit slow for adoption of new tools, here with AI is changing, and people are more open to see what's new. Even something like ChatGPT and image generation, which is the two more common today. 2 years ago, we didn't see any of this. Now, over 50% of the architects we talk to have an AI group in their office, and they basically testing these tools and gearing towards the future office-wide adoption. At the same time, in terms of the adoption curve, we are still extremely early. A lot of tools have not been thoroughly tested yet or are not compatible for integration at the firm or the enterprise level. Some of them do not even have a user interface and they only run by technical team as part of the script or app. There's definitely room to grow, but in the same time, for those who embrace an early adopter mentality, this represents a huge opportunity to find the market differentiation, gain competitive advantage, and position themselves as outstanding practitioners in the industry. Think about it this way. There was 7,000 architectural firms in Canada and about 80,000 of architectural firms in the US. I think it's fair to say that just lowering the price for design services will not get us to sustainable competitive design practice. We as architects need to work with productivity and efficiency and being able to monetize our existing knowledge that we already have so far. So let's talk about the current challenges. These are the challenges that Mary and I face every day working with architects, and we see this as the main obstacles in the adoption of the new tech today. And eventually, they become an impediment to the wider adoption of AI in organizations and those barriers that we as a team are trying to break. The first one is a cultural shift. I think this applies maybe not only to AI, but any technologies for architects. And I would be curious to hear from the audience if they feel the same way. People are used to their own old ways, and especially people in more senior and decision-making roles, they just want to have things the way they always been and the way they are. There is also data privacy and training concerns in AI space. We hear those questions a lot about how the data is being used, whether it's used for training or not. The third thing is related to cultural shift as well, but it's part of the bigger conversation. Unfortunately, AI is seen as a replacement of a designer or an architect, but always we see at Archi it is an enhancement of a skill rather than a replacement. And actually, we never see it as a replacement. And hopefully, through the case studies that we're going to share with you today, we can prove that to you, and you can also kind of maybe follow up with some questions. Another challenge that we see is that AI today is leveraged for more creative tasks in day-to-day practice. When you mention AI, architects immediately think about rendering tools like Midjourney, which is interesting because machines handle tedious tasks way better than humans. For example, our brains are not designed to hold project numbers, exact addresses, construction notes, specifications. And the question is, how come we do give AI the most creative tasks at the beginning of the design process, and things that we like so much to do, the creative tasks that brought us to this profession? We need to remember that there are many non-creative tasks in our profession. And we are not going to talk about, whether we like those tasks or we don't like them to do them. It's not the point of this conversation. The point of this discussion is for us to bring to your attention what are the opportunities. And those are three main categories that we today identify are up for automation and disruption in the next 5 to 10 years. The first one is detailing and compliance. The second one is project communication, project management. And the third bucket is information resource management. So some of the tasks from the first category are construction documents, code validation, and the issues with interoperability between these different pieces of software, which are very common. Even inside the same Autodesk ecosystem, we see incompatibility between Revit and AutoCAD, and architects are struggling with this every day. Under project management, we have communication, minutes, and reports. And we see many AI tools now replacing or helping with that already. Going through emails and retrieving crucial information about the project, historical information, why certain decision has been made. This is extremely tedious. Providing timely feedback is very often extremely difficult as well. One of the scenarios that we see keep happening in architectural offices is that principal and decision makers, they do not have access to Revit or any BIM data. They don't have a mean to communicate their feedback, and the knowledge is being kept or transferred verbally or via email, and inevitably just falls in between the cracks. There is no place to deposit their knowledge and centralize it, which makes it accessible then to everyone in the company. And the third category is my personal favorite. Something that I feel architects are not very good at least I'm not, is the folder organization, information accessibility at the firm's level. How many times did I see someone creating a project folder with the, certain date standard being used in the beginning of the file name or the end of the file name, and then someone else comes in and try to figure out what comes when, and essentially the problem becomes only accelerated because of the sheer volume of architectural information we have today. And the more software we use, the more data there is to manage. So if the list of non-creative tasks goes on and on, why am I, as an architect, is willing to give up creative tasks so easily? Even if we know that the machine is so good at doing mundane tasks, going through the information, file by file, line by line, why is the first thing that comes to a lot of people's mind is doing renderings and doing creative work. At Archi, we believe that AI should be doing your architectural laundry and not taking over your creative tasks. If you need some enhancements, that's absolutely fine. But how many processes can be improved and already using AI today without encroaching into architects' creative territory? Yeah. Now let's look at more practical applications. And we're going to go over the architectural software landscape. Of course, we're not going to cover all 1,000 tools that are out there. But for the purpose of this meeting, we identified 5 general categories. And some of these applications would be fully AI and some would be enhanced by AI. These 5 categories, they do not directly correlate with the tasks that I mentioned earlier, but rather they correlate with project stages. We purposely looking at the tools from different angles to give you a holistic view of the landscape today. This is just to give you a flavor, an idea, and how you can start now approaching the process of retooling if you choose to do so. In the same time, you have to remember that a lot of these tools are still under the NDA and intellectual property constraints. Companies do not reveal everything that they are working on today. A lot of companies keeping it on the low, actually including us even. We are making an exception for you today, but generally, if you even go to our website, we only share very high level information. Companies provide partial information of what they're working on for competitive reasons, because they want to have this competitive edge and be the first to the market, and also keeping their intellectual property safe. So the first bucket of those tools are feasibility studies. We're also going to be talking about everyone's favorite image generation. We're going to talk about BIM generation using AI. We will talk about the site review tools as well. And we're going to finish up with the talk about data management and the one that fall into the list of the most mundane tasks that we discussed earlier under the resource management. So let's start with the feasibility studies. These are the tools that are planning the sites programmatically, and based on the parameters that are known to us, think about it as a, I don't know, Excel spreadsheet driven design, or those of you who work with developers as a pro forma driven design. Those parameters could be the width of the unit, the size of the parking lot or parking space, the size of the site, the setback, balcony sizes, the corridor width, the core size, etc., etc. Sima, is everything okay? People can see my screen?
Well, Reza says he cannot see the PowerPoint presentation. I was wondering if anyone else has the same problem.
I can see everything fine.
Um, Maybe Reza, you can just leave and rejoin. Maybe it will.
Yeah,
Is
or
that
if you're on the phone, if you can join from the laptop, that would be also helpful.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for your help. The second bucket is the image generation using AI. So the concept is for you to spend, instead of spending hours trying to figure out your render, the textures, the light, you control it with human language. And you can see it's still early days. However, it's already very powerful. And the speed of this development is extremely fast. I think that starting with the image might be a bit of a kind of band-aid solution, in my personal opinion, because from the data perspective, it's not firm-specific data. It doesn't know the history of design aesthetics or context of this firm. It's trained on generic data from internet and Pinterest images. And that's kind of something that we are trying to fix with Archi and having non-generic approach where possible. And we're going to talk about it today. I wanted to give you some of the examples from my practice, something that I designed a couple of years ago and use in this instance Photoshop Beta. So the image on the left, you can see it's rendered using Enscape and SketchUp. Image on the right has been created without re-rendering the same image, just navigating with prompts inside of the Photoshop Beta. The second one, I personally gave a try to the Prom AI. This project has an instance where the rendering was not in the scope of the project, but I still needed to have this project rendered for marketing and website purposes. So I took an initial clay render from Revit using Enscape. I run it through Prom AI in a test capacity. It literally takes 2 seconds. You write a prompt of what you want to see, and it spits out the image. A lot of detailing obviously is not very precise or accurate, but again, you can run it through Photoshop Beta for quick updates and finish it up there. And if you guys again have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. The third group is BIM generation. In this case, we are looking at HiArc. There are 3 engineers who exited from Autodesk and started their own tech company. Think about it as a lighter version of Revit, which runs on the web and focuses only on single-family residential. They essentially have a catalog of pre-generated assets, which you can change on the fly. You can divide rooms and assign room values to them. The drawing set is created automatically in several disciplines, like electrical, plumbing, architectural. The quantity takeoffs are also done in the background. You can see that the rendering is happening simultaneously as well. You can be changing the roof shape, the kind of finish of the siding. And the craziest part is the building permit set is being produced in the background. And once you're done with your design, your set of drawings is ready to go for submission to the city. Another one that my personal favorite is HiPar. HiPar, you can navigate BIM models using text. So essentially, instead of modeling your families, you can just type and ask them to be created with the prompt. Then we go to site review tools, and the one you're seeing right now on the screen is called Argyle. This tool actually maps BIM model from various disciplines onto your site, and it's done for checking the clashes, making sure that the BIM data is followed accurately and its position on site where it's supposed to go during the construction process. And now we're going to arrive to the data management. And here you see what we have been developing at Archi. The goal is to work with architectural data and use AI to archive it and retrieve the information based on the design intent during the drawing creation process. Now we're going to talk about the Archi case study. We wanted to make sure that we are not only talking about landscape and general terms. We rather wanted to present it from the perspective of everything we've been doing for the past year and a half, things that we've been learning, and share those discoveries with you today. So the problem that we are focusing on is the problem of the data access, knowledge transfer, and being able to obtain context while making an important design decision that will influence the course of your project. I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that data in architectural office is extremely fragmented. What you see here on the screen, have PDF files, we have Revit model, we have Revit models that exist in their own Revit versions, and the flow of information is extremely challenging and extremely broken. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this image, but I guess we will hear about it at the end of this presentation. Once we interviewed over 200 architects, we came to a conclusion that this represents quite a large amount of hours that they waste per year. When we sum it up, our pessimistic estimation that 200 hours per person per year are spent on search only. Some people told us that they spend half an hour a week, and some people told us they spend 2-3 days a week, try to identify where the information has been previously stored, whether it's been done before, and 200 hours is basically an average. When we talk about 200 hours, it's not even talking about trying to redraw or recreate information that has been done before. This is just the time that they try to find these answers. Talk to their manager, go dig on the server, talk to their colleagues, and try to basically kind of piece this information together. Now I'm going to pass the stage to Mehdi.
So instead, Archie uses an AI conversational search, meaning that inside your firm corporate knowledge, you can quickly identify the applicable information in terms of assets based on the design intent that you're currently experiencing. Then as an architect, you can bring all these assets to Revit, either using them as they are, for instance, if they are accessibility or typical details, or you can redraw these assets partially based on the need for a specific unique project you're working on. So the idea on the latter scenario is to go from 50 to 100 instead of going from ground zero to the finish line. Next, please. Here's a high-level diagram of how this works. We have ArchiWeb that contains selected firms' data, and ArchiRevit plugin that speaks with the Revit model. The plugin pulls structured information containing Revit metadata such as project information, detail tags, annotations, and pushes it into ArchiCloud. And then we have a deep learning mechanism in the middle which categorizes information automatically by semantic meaning and design intent. Then all this information is packaged into a searchable hub in ArchiWeb, so architects and AEC professionals can find and reuse architectural expertise quickly, leading to a faster, less error-prone building design.
Excellent. Thank you, Mehdi. So for me to put this in use, we have ArchiWeb, and that's where all the searching is being done. The benefit of having the web is that now we bring non-Revit users to the platform, people who are more senior in the office, principals, decision makers, and then we enable them to be part of this design conversation outside of the BIM ecosystem. At the same time, people who are Revit users, first way is to use the current projects that might be running in parallel in the office, and they want to take advantage of the projects to be same typology, being sometimes ahead of one another, and see if some of the details can be salvaged from the projects that are more advanced to the projects that are still earlier. Or they can bring their archive project and detail libraries for the future referencing and reuse. The premise of this work is the feedback-driven design. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we are working already with a number of architectural firms. We meet with them every 2 weeks and we receive feedback. Sometimes this feedback could be directly affecting the software development, or could be some ideas that they had, or some processes that they observed and they imagine them being enhanced with AI. The product is tailored to solve the real pains, and that's why working closely with our customers is absolutely crucial for us. So remember how we said it's about 200 hours per year per person to search the items that they know that someone has done before in their office. So now with Archi, these hours are returned to our customers, and 2,000 hours are saved per team of 10 people, which practically makes them gain an additional pair of hands. Our users are very excited about AI search. So essentially, it's an opportunity to dive into the entirety of the information, like Mary already said, and not only scratching the surface by searching view name or just like PDF name, but being able to be very specific and tell what is on this detail and whether we can reuse it or carry forward for a new project. So it's very contextual and very specific. Something that we're also very proud of are hybrid details. So if you audience, if you use Revit, you would understand that a lot of details have been drawn. So a lot of details, they are drawn partially in 3D and then they're dressed up with the 2D elements. So there's no way to copy those details and bring them forward to the new projects. And with Archie, we solved that. And so far, users are extremely excited about this, and it allows them to file and reuse hybrid details. And of course, filing of the drafting views is incredibly helpful as well. A lot of firms still use that too. So to sum up, our goal is to create a mind map of architectural information. We want to create context. We don't want to have another content library where you file assets and then you have to assign tags to them manually, and then only then you can find them. We want to create a place of context, the place where architects can leverage AI. And again, we want AI to be doing architectural laundry for them. A lot of people ask us, what is the future of all of this? Like, where is all of this going? So Archi today is a visual search engine with Revit integration via plugin, like we showed you today. But our goal for Archi to become a comprehensive command center to run your design business from a centralized corporate knowledge hub. So think about it this way. Instead of doing manual project setup on Archi, you can tell the machine what you need to do. You can navigate the environment in the human language, and you don't need to see it as another task now you need to complete and put it on your to-do list. But our goal is for you to feel empowered by this co-creator that is always by your side and doing this task for you. And essentially, the biggest goal for us is for you guys to get to what you love to do faster. We should see AI as a tool that helps us not to get our creative work done, but to get our tedious work done first to make sure that we design compliant, sustainable buildings. So how can we implement it today? And from now, hopefully we can give you some practical advice and something that you can take home with you. It's essential to focus on layer by layer implementation. So rather than assuming that we will simply integrate AI when it improves, adopting this mentality ensures that you're prepared for the gradual process of integration. Starting earlier will increase your chances of gaining a competitive edge here, like I already said on the previous slide. Adopting a flexible mindset is also crucial for this continuous learning. For instance, with Archi Academy, we introduced it to the platform. Users won't need to log in separately or navigate to different resources to access training. They're short 2 minute videos, which are like bite sizes, and this is extremely streamlined, digestible format, and it's vital to keep the users up to date with the new software. Of course, investing in the new tools, new technology is essential. If you only rely on the current tools without innovation, consider that your clients, developers, and other consultants might adopt newer, lighter software, enabling them to innovate faster. If they progress quickly, you will need to adapt rapidly just to keep the pace, which is already challenging. And I think waiting too long means that they might fully integrate new technologies while you just in the beginning, putting you at a disadvantage. We also anticipate that there are going to be some restructuring with implementation of Archi, for example, which may be eliminating certain processes. So it's interesting. Our customers have noticed that some existing workflows could become obsolete once Archi is fully integrated. So the streamlining doesn't just shorten the workflow, it removes the workflow blocks, basically fostering the culture of new adaptability. And as we said, we develop our software collaboratively with architects, and to ensure that this is all done to ensure that industry specific software meets their exact needs and helps them to alleviate their pains today. We're seeing now that even major companies like Autodesk, which traditionally were very isolated in their development process and they build in kind of like what they thought they should be building, and now trying to engage with their customers, and they come into the conferences and they're asking for the feedback And essentially something that startups been doing for a long time, which is the customer-driven design, now becoming essential across the industry, even for big players like Autodesk. And now we will conclude with a plan of action that hopefully encourages you to embrace this new discipline and help you to move away from traditional isolated approaches. So I think the first thing that we need to get used to the fact that technology is here to stay. It's not here to replace us, but if we turn our back on technology, most likely we are not going to get far. And I hope that everyone who is on this call today, and I would be super curious to hear from you guys, is very interested in believes in technology and they are open to this new paradigm. We need to get ready to this mindful retooling. It's about dedicating time and resources and making sure that people who are making decisions in your office are aware of what's happening in the industry. And sometimes we need to be advocates and we need to build this agency for ourselves to make sure that people actually pay attention because it's very easy to get distracted and to be always on a deadline. It's very simple. You can start discussing AI in your office very early. Many companies approach us eager to collaborate, but they concerned that their bosses might not be open to it. Once they see a demo and they trial our tool, they are often amazed by the capabilities and they see the savings right away. So it's a very kind of controversial process. Could be a bit slower in the beginning, but by the time you see the business case here and the use case, it becomes very obvious. And you have to be comfortable with the change. Essentially, you just need to make sure that it doesn't feel like someone is taking the ground from under your feet, but rather it feels like the innovation is welcome and we are together to be better in our profession. We be better architects, and this will help us together, hopefully. And of course, talk to us. We would be happy to discuss these insights further with you. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. As part of our research, we're always looking at new tools. We're looking at this competitive landscape for us. This is part of our day-to-day, so don't hesitate. I'm going to share our contact details. We also have a couple of other appearances and presentations that we done, not exactly on the topic that we are talking about today, but a couple of others. So if you're curious, you can scan the QR code and this will take you to the link to this other presentations. And now we're gonna have some questions, some time for questions. And before I give you the stage for your questions, I wanted to share our contact info. We also have Archi referral program. So if you want to scan the QR code again and fill the form, you can either sign up for the demo with us and see how we do things that we do. Or if you feel like you know someone who might be interested, you can just drop their name in that form. And essentially, people who bring us new users, they get the license for free. That's our way to encourage the product to grow and to spread around architects. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm looking forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you so much, Natalia. It was very interesting. I myself am very interested to introduce this to my superiors in our company. So we'll look forward to that.
That's great. Great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I ask my question? I don't know if we have how many questions we have, but my question was about creating the library that you were talking about. So you were talking about creating library of details, for example, and like having that. If I'm understanding it right, there is your website. It's like we should insert our data in the website and then come back and use it. So you talked about that a little bit. If you can expand that so we can understand better, because that will also take time in, I think, to just create that data for in order to use it later.
Great question. Mehdi, do you want to take the question and I
Yeah.
will
Yeah,
add?
basically, yeah. So basically, this technology is going to evolve over time of how we do it. But today, the way it works is we have a Revit plugin that you install on Revit, and then the BIM manager or whoever has the privileges to do so, they log in through the plugin into Archie, and then they would just hit upload, and it just uploads all of the proper appropriate details into cloud. So you do the work is just basically opening the models that you think are you're gonna reuse and upload to the system. But in the future, people who are on ACC, which is the Autodesk cloud, construction cloud, we will have integrations with them where if your model is already on ACC, we can go grab it on your behalf and upload it into Archie. So it will just even become more seamless.
But essentially, even today, it's one click of a button.
Yeah.
So we have the plugin, you log in, and the login basically points. And I see the question in the chat, by the way, great question. I will answer that right after. Um, so essentially, the login points the data into right location into private secured cloud, where only your firm's data is stored. And then you just click upload, and the information is being transferred from Revit model to the web. And on the web, we also have concept of projects. So essentially, each project each project's Revit file would be an entity on ArchiWeb. And sometimes, ArchiWeb project would be just connected to one Revit model. And sometimes if it's a larger project, we can connect multiple Revit models into the ArchiWeb instance.
And I'm guessing that's associated with a specific company, right?
That's correct. That's exactly the question that I see in the chat. Chat, do you want me to read the question, or do you want to read the question?
If you can do so, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. So the question in the chat, if your platform is based on collecting the data from various companies, how the privacy of the data and intellectual property will be maintained? So essentially, Mary, I'm going to start and you can add to what I'm saying here. So each company gets a private secured cloud. So you can only see your data, and there is no data cross-contamination between the companies. In terms of the intellectual properties, we share basically sign an agreement with them. They get our intellectual property, which is our Revit plugin, which we custom built, and it's all proprietary. And we essentially collect the data, which we sign on, and we're saying that the data belongs to them, does not belong to us. Only the studies that we do on the data, they belong to us. Mary, do you want to add something to it?
Yeah, I think that was great. So basically, from a privacy and security perspective, there are two aspects to it. One is the bureaucratic aspect of it, where it's typical where we just sign release forms to make sure that this information is not going to be shared with anyone. It's kind of like an NDA. From a technological perspective, our data is encrypted at rest when it's in our private cloud, meaning that no one is able to see it. Even if they see it, it looks gibberish to them. And then basically Archi is a multi-tenant system, meaning that multiple tenants, multiple architectural firms or engineering firms can be using them without cross-contamination of their data. So everyone is just have access to their own data. And then even within your firm, we have set up privileges of different roles. So for instance, if you are a user, super user, a power user, a BIM manager, or a principal, you have different roles with different access levels to Archi. So we've thought about all this stuff from a different perspective, like cross firm and cross user within the same firm, to make sure that we keep the system secure. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you, Mary. That's a great answer. And Mary, there's another question in the chat. I think you might want to pick that one as well, and I will add more if need to be.
Yes. So basically,
Do you want to read the question?
yes. So the question is, thank you for reminding that.
Sure.
Is your ML platform will learn only from a company-specific data or from all collected data? So basically, there is information that is scrubbed, that is anonymized, and we can use it to improve Archie as a whole. But there is also information that is proprietary to a firm, and we can use it to train data, to train our system based on that firm only. And then using the new, this is possible using the new deep learning technology these days, because they require very little training data to be able to work. So with minimal amount of data, which every firm has, we've seen so far, has so much data for their own, so it's enough for them, for us to be able to train our model for based on, you know, their tenants in our multi-tenant system. And that's how we make sure that, you know, because data is an important part of their ecosystem, and it's basically their intellectual property, so we make sure it only stays with their own within their own firm and company.
That's great. Thank you, Mary. And I think to add to that, so think about it as this system of these mini machines that each firm gets this machine that generates assets for them. So our future is today we basically archive the data. We help architects search through the data using AI conversational search. So the idea is that for them, instead of going from a 0 to 100, we take them to 50%, and then they take this detail from 50 to 100. They modify it, they update it. In the future, we want to make sure that our customers, they have an opportunity to use their internal data to leverage generative AI and pre-draw these assets to 70, 80, 90%, and then almost only do quality control, quality assurance on them. And that's like the future. This is our North Star. This is not what we're doing right now, but that's where we want to be. Great question. So, is Architailor just for architecture firms? Would it work for engineering firms as well? That's a great question. So, essentially, we are using architecture firms as a starting point, just because, I'm an architect. I've been in architecture firms. I know how it functions, and we know kind of ins and out. There's a lot of insight for us to build on. But in the same time, architecture firms are a bit of a smaller market and like a bit of a more kind of isolated group. Engineering firms, on the contrary, there's just so many of them. And we do know that they have the same exact problem. And especially in the case of structural and mechanical engineers, there's even more reusability in their case, because it's way more typical than architectural work. And I think for us, it's just being very strategic with our resources. We're a very small team. Mehdi and I are two co-founders, and we have 3 people who are part-time. We just have to like almost focus on one industry for now. And then once we solved it for architects, we're going to move to engineers. But it's definitely on our roadmap.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you Hano, if I'm not butchering your name, if it's something that you deal with details that, you know, day in, day out, we will be happy to have a conversation with you. If what you saw on the screen seems like that it solves a problem, definitely we're open to have a conversation with you.
Well, if I may, I was gonna say something like that because I am working in multidisciplinary company, like we have engineers and architects working together, and we also work at the same time on one Revit file. We work all of us together, like we are linked together, and we have separate files, but we basically print out and submit together. And when I was looking at your plugin, it seems that it's just no-brainer to have the plugin for all of the disciplines, and they can use it simultaneously. It's not that big of a deal, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%. Seem a really good observation. I think Panos was talking about similar thing as well. It's not that we, we want to work with engineers too. We just, we've been growing really fast. We have a lot of interest. We have to kind of like make sure that we don't spread ourselves too thin. But if people who are on the call today, if you see the real application for what you saw, we would be so happy to talk to you. And we know that the plugin works for architects, for engineers, for mechanical engineers. We are now even figuring out how to make it work with ArchiCAD. We have one customer now on ArchiCAD. We already tested it. Archi works with ArchiCAD as well. We are testing it with SolidWorks. Another customer wants to do it with the SolidWorks. So the opportunity is huge.
Great. Thank you so much. I think it was a lot of useful information that everybody enjoyed, and it's we are all looking forward for future advancement. So if I think we only have 4 minutes left from this meeting, if you have anything to add, you're more than welcome to. And if not, you can end the meeting.
Mary, do you want to add anything?
No, but I just want to thank everyone for being generous with their time. I know like people might be coming from different time zones. Some people just came after work. So thank you for spending your afternoon with us. And thank you so much for VPA. Sapida and Seema have been tremendously amazing. Thank you guys so much for making this happen. You like the Vancouver community of architecture and engineering is so lucky to have you guys. Thank you.
Oh, that's so
Thank you so
true.
much. Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. It was great. Yeah, so Seema, do you want to add anything?
I'm good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank,
everyone. Have a
thank you,
great
everyone.
rest of your day, and
Bye,
Thank
good
you for
everyone.
night,
joining us.
Natalia.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.